Hello,
Hello,
boys and ghouls.
Welcome to an... Go for it. You do. I'm not doing it. Go for it.
All right. Hello, boys and ghouls. Welcome to episode 113 of Dads from the Crypt. My name is Jason. I'm your host tonight, and I'm joined by Mondo.
Hey, Jason.
Hi, Mondo. And returning after a couple of weeks off is Jody.
Hello.
Fresh off a birthday. Happy
That's
birthday,
right.
Jody.
Happy birthday, Jody.
Thank you. Thank you. I had the horrifying realization that at 42, that means that if a kid was born on the first day I could legally drink, he was also legally drinking for the first time on my birthday. So,
All right.
Yeah, that's painful. I didn't like that.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
I'm not there yet, but I do have a child that'll be drinking age in less than 2 months.
Yeah.
Yeah. Oh, boy.
Which is good for me because I'm like, hey, I need you to go to the store and buy a bottle of vodka or something. So
That would be nice. Handy.
Yeah. Send it to the dispensary.
I mean, when she was younger and she first got her license, I'd have her come pick me up from the brewery because I'd be like, "Hey, I'm gonna pay an Uber driver $20. Or I'll give you $20."
Yeah, I like it.
There you go.
Make some gas money. Yeah, all the good stuff.
All right. We got a lot to get to tonight, so we're going to get right into it. We're talking about VHS 85. Came out October 6th. And I don't know how many VHSs there are, but the first one came out in 2012.
I think this is the sixth one.
Six?
There
Okay.
was VHS, VHS2, Viral, and then 94, 99, 85.
Yep.
Am I missing any?
I think that's it.
I think that's right.
Yeah. So
Yes,
again, we're just over 11 years of these, and just to give a quick overall, I like this franchise quite a bit. I mean,
Yeah, me too.
like any other horror anthology, there's always gonna be some you don't love.
Yeah.
Some of them are better than others, but I think the first two are very strong, and each of them, I think Viral's the one I like the least, but each of them has at least some segments I really like.
Yeah,
I mean, my favorite, and I don't know if we're going to get into this later, my favorite of the whole franchise is VHS2. Like, I feel like that's the high point of this whole series.
Probably.
But 94 was great. I like this one a lot, too. 99 and Viral are not my favorites, but there's still some good stuff in them.
Mm-hmm.
You know, number two, that ending segment by Timo Tajanto. I don't know what's his name. That was my favorite. Yeah, my favorite segment they've done in the whole.
It's one of my favorite short films ever.
Oh God,
like it's so good. The cult thing.
The cult thing's so good, and even the effects are the demon effects, the Satan effects, and are kind of cheesy, but it works because that's what it actually. I mean, there's so many people that try to recreate that golden era of like 80s and 90s horror, and that somehow does it without trying.
Yeah,
it made me have that feeling of watching those things back in the day. But I mean, there have been some stinkers in the series. Let's be honest.
Sure.
Not as a full movie. I've enjoyed every Viral is probably my least favorite. I've enjoyed everyone to some extent.
Yeah,
but I do think sometimes like the last season we're talking about before the show started, they did one like a Double Dare game show one, and it was so bad like I almost just turned it off. And that's
in 99. I haven't caught 99 yet.
The last one that came out, the very last one.
99,
yeah, that was, and that had a couple stinkers, but again, then also bookended with some really good pieces too. Yeah. But it's rare that a piece of an anthology that bad will make me just give it up on it. So, but that almost
it would be really cool if Shudder did like a channel of all the VHSs and just just randomly playing different segments, like completely out of order.
That'd be awesome. I mean, Shudder, like, come on, dude, like that sounds great.
Yeah, none of them really relate to each other in any way in any of these movies.
Except for the two in this one.
Except for something in this one, yeah. The reason I think 2 is the best is because it's got that one just banger segment with Safe Home, but the whole thing is pretty good. Like it's got it's got the guy with the eyeball with the camera in his eye.
Yeah, good one.
And then the zombie thing with the GoPro.
That was the zombie GoPro one. That's one of my favorites.
The kids and the aliens at the end. Like it's just banger after banger, but
So all right. Well, let's get into it. Again, VHS 85 just came out on Shudder.
We will be doing some spoilers, so just
we're going to spoil, so just go watch it.
Yeah, there's nothing crazy we're gonna say that's gonna you're like, oh my god, I can't. But there are some twists and turns that'll be really nice, and I would definitely recommend listening or watching them. If you plan on watching it, I definitely recommend watching it before you listen to us.
Shudder is like $6 a month. Get you a subscription, just even for a month. Watch a bunch of stuff and cancel if you need to. Whatever. They don't sponsor us.
If you use the code Dads from the Crypt, you will get nothing. So don't
Get
even
nothing
try.
out of it. So
You get the error screen. So if you're into being rejected, then go for it.
sure.
All right, Jody, give us talk about the wraparound.
Okay, so the wraparound on this one, it's kind of neat the way that they do it, because this whole thing acts like the segments have been recorded over a documentary. And the wraparound is that documentary kind of like peeking out between scenes. And so it's called Total Copy, and it's some kind of documentary about this thing, like shape-shifting kind of thing from another world. Or is it an alien? It's never really clear.
Yeah, they never explain where it came from,
And I think that's on purpose.
Yeah.
But it's a shapeshifter of some sort, and it slowly begins to copy the people in the area and take over and start doing the kind of things it's observed in their lives.
Yeah, and they have it contained in some sort of scientific research facility. So they have like it in like a room with a double glass, and they're showing it TV constantly because that's what you
Aerobic
do.
videos in
I guess
particular.
they talk at one point about like they're trying to teach it how like language and things by just having it watch like 80s exercise videos.
I guess, yeah. But
and, like soap operas.
Yeah.
It has a really nice payoff at the end, though. Like, I mean, I almost feel like that whole wraparound was just setting up for one gag at the end.
Yes, it was.
It was worthwhile.
It was very, it's very, remind me a lot of like The Thing.
Yeah. As it
vibes.
morphs into different things. But yeah, it starts copying like the people, even the people that it hasn't seen. So it's got some kind of psychic connection to the researchers in there.
Or they determine that maybe it's able to see through the one-way mirror.
Or maybe, yeah.
I almost saw the wraparound as not even like supposed to be a real documentary, but supposed to be one of those like mockumentaries you would see, like the foxes like dissecting the alien or whatever, or alien autopsy. So I almost thought that wraparound was meant to be like a that's why I kind of interpreted it was to be more of a fake documentary, and that's why, because you wouldn't record over that if you actually had that video.
Right. Like, that would have worked better like with the 90s motif, not so much the 80s, but I can see where you're going with that.
Yeah, kind of like the Blair Witch, the sci-fi thing that they did.
Exactly.
Blair
Like,
Witch
the alien abduction.
Feasible. Yeah.
All right, take us into the first segment, No Wake.
All right, so our first segment starts with a group of, I guess, teenagers or early people in their 20s. They're out camping. They're having fun. They're out on a boat doing some water skiing. You get to see kind of these little glimpses of the relationships between the characters. Like you can tell this one dude is into.
Sorry. I was like, why is my internet cutting out? And it was my Ethernet cable's unplugged, so I had to plug it back in.
Okay. But anyway, so you can tell, there's like some relationship stuff, and they kind of have a thing for each other, and
Mondo, save that for the Patreon. Only dads.
All of a sudden, though, while one of the girls is skiing, you hear a shot, and the girl drops. And then there's multiple shots. They start taking people out. They take one of the girl's jaw, just like blow it completely off, and everyone's dead. And then they start coming back. They start regaining consciousness, and the girl who had been shot off the boat gets back into the boat, and her jaw is completely destroyed. It's a really cool effect. But they're all dead but alive. They have definitely all taken fatal wounds, but they are alive. And earlier, before they ever get to this lake, you see them hiking through the woods, kind of taking a camera, and they find this lake, and it says Lake Evig or something like that, right? Like it.
Yeah.
I thought
at first you think it's going to say Lake Evil because he's like wiping out EVI. Yeah. Like, okay.
But apparently, Evig means something like resurrection or something like that, and so this lake water, apparently they realize that some of the people with them have stayed dead. These are the people who haven't gotten in the water, and so the water itself must be what is causing them to stay alive after they definitely should be dead.
Like, one guy's like literally holding his guts out, like, what's going on?
The other guy goes like, well, the brains are leaking. My brains are leaking out of my head. Like, I shouldn't be alive.
Yeah, and at one point they like question if they're zombies, and like, well, we're talking to each other.
Right. They're very, I mean, it's kind of like they're conscious zombies. Like they
Yeah.
are definitely dead, but their minds are still working. And so they say, we need to get revenge. And how we're going to get revenge? We're going to do exactly to them what they did to us.
Mhm.
And then the segment just ends. And when I first watched it, I was like, okay, so that was interesting. And I kind of like the resurrecting lake, but there was no ending to this.
Right. Well, okay. So two
But wait.
things. What?
I said, but wait, we'll talk
Yep.
more.
But so two things. One, there's a fun moment where someone references Pet Cemetery.
Yeah.
Yes.
Sometimes dead is better, and they're like,
I'll
"Who's
actually
Stephen
say-
King?"
I'll just say real fast. I feel like sometimes though when they do that stuff in these kind of movies, it's really forced, and that felt kind of forced. Like they felt like we have to show we're in the '90s, so it's reference Stephen King.
Yeah, but at least but I think one guy hadn't heard of Stephen King yet, so like we're still in that era where like he wasn't as universally known.
I keep forgetting it's '85, but the other piece of that though is also though it really is a nice touch being that the Resurrection Pet Cemetery storyline that
Right.
Yeah,
it wasn't like someone was just holding a Stephen King book. It was like, hey guys, have you heard of Stephen King? Like at least it like thematically tied in where someone who conceivably read Pet Cemetery in '85 was like, wait a second.
See how I make friends? I walk around in large groups. I just walk around and say, "Do you read Sutter Kane?"
Do you read Sutter Kane? Yes.
And people that get it, we can be friends. People that don't, we can still be friends. Like I don't gatekeep.
So also on their RV, there's a big in Roman numerals 7 written out.
Mm-hmm.
That's like the only clue that they really have. So that they kind of that comes back into play in the later segment.
Yeah, but, Joe, you were here last week, but last week I taught Jason that the X in Sought X is actually the Roman numeral for 10. He wasn't aware of that.
Yeah, I totally didn't know that. You know, I was in the Greek fraternity. I had no clue what X meant. Or
the only reason he was
Indiana Jones' Last Crusade.
That's right.
Before we're on the air, Jason's like, "Yeah, that VII painted on the side."
But yeah, I'm not going to go too deep into this, but I found this one very triggering at first, based on recent events of seeing firsthand footage of people being shot at. It was like, wow, this is going, especially for the very first segment. It was very jarring to me. I eventually got over it, but again, having that firsthand grainy, very real look feels like something you would see, on many TV or YouTube videos of recent events, or even like over the last however many years.
And even as horror fans, I've been watching through the Friday 13th franchise with my older kids, and I've seen people die in a million ways, axes and machetes and stuff like that. But something about seeing a gunshot in a movie still is a little jarring when it's a horror movie. Like I'm just not used to it. There's a scene in the first Terrifier where Art the Clown suddenly just pulls out a pistol and shoots somebody, and it's like that's against the rules, right? Like you can't do that.
Well, again, especially given the first person and the grimy aesthetic, it just seems very real. And again, you don't know where this segment's going, and when that first happens, it's very shocking.
A very credit to the director for the way it was shot too, because that first shot that comes in, I was like, holy shit, is that what is this really happening? I'd actually rewind that scene because of all the chaos. I had to go back and make sure. I was like, wait, when did this person get shot? And especially in our current state of affairs in the United States of America, even there's a fucking mass shooting every day. Like gun violence here is a real thing, and I think the director did a good job kind of playing off that fear. And this is also why I think at first I was very upset by the end of the segment because the beginning being such real violence and then to fall back into that supernatural horror almost, but not explain anything. I was like, I need more from this because you didn't either. Because I first thought they were just going to go straight just that realistic violence, and they didn't, and I was really worried about it. But later on, it does pay off.
Yeah, in the context of things, it ties it together. But for like the start of the segment for a series that were known to have the more supernatural events and not be as like real shocking like that, it was a hard hit. But yeah. All right, let's move on to the next one, Jody.
Okay, so the next segment is called God of Death. And there's
the order.
What's that?
Oh, I think I messed up the order, but yeah, you're right.
Yeah, I've got Wikipedia in front of me. That's
Okay.
why I remember what happens when.
And
Uh,
I give Wikipedia $2 every month. As a thank you. I don't know how many people donate, but I'm one of them. It might be $5.
we're giving our audience a little peek behind the scenes. I'm sitting here, talking about this, but I also have Wikipedia open to the side so I can remember what happened in what order. So this one, it's all in Spanish with subtitles because the director is Spanish. Mexican news crew is getting ready to do the morning broadcast. Like the anchors getting all made up, getting ready. They're kind of joking around together. And in the middle of it all, there is an earthquake, and it's a very violent earthquake.
Just for the record, that earthquake was based off that really did happen on that date in 1987.
I was
That
wondering
was
about that.
it was an 8.0 magnitude earthquake that they still think up to 45,000 people might have died in that earthquake.
Jesus.
Oh wow. Okay, so
Which
everyone.
again, I'm still waiting for like the spooky stuff to really hit in this movie, and now we're getting an earthquake. I'm like, is this like the hard hitting real life
Sure.
movie?
But anyway, everyone in the newsroom, other than one of the cameramen, is killed, and a rescue team comes and tries to help him out. And they're trying to get out of this building, but they just keep getting blocked by rubble in various places. There's aftershocks, and people are getting hurt, and things are falling. And eventually, they kind of make their way through this little crawl space, and they enter a room full of paintings and skulls and an ancient Aztec god on the wall. And that ancient Aztec god actually is there. He steps out and he possesses one of the guys and starts killing people and ripping out hearts and eating the hearts. And so yeah, it's definitely playing off that Aztec god of death thing. And in this one, the god of death is literally underground where that earthquake took place. And the room eventually collapses there, and a surviving news reporter broadcasts from outside the building and says exactly what you were saying, Mado. Today, September 19th, at 7:20 a.m. will be a day to remember. So it's referencing back to that day that it actually happened, but with little Aztec mythology thrown in there.
Yeah, again, this was one that was very realistic till like the last couple minutes, and you're like, okay, I guess we're in this middle of this like disaster movie style one. And there's a part where one of the aftershocks hit, and like the leader of the rescue team falls onto a thing of rebar, and he's got all these like pipes sticking out of his chest, and they have to put him out of his misery. I was like, jeez, this is going hard.
It's kind of one of those things where living in Los Angeles, you feel earthquakes, right? Or Pasadena, but you don't that magnitude though. It's hard to imagine what one would be like. I thought this did a great job of capturing like what it would probably feel like to really be trying to escape a building in the middle of one of the biggest earthquakes of all time. And it was both claustrophobic and frantic at the same time. And that's really hard to pull off.
It was really chaotic through a lot of it, and that's what it would be like.
Yeah.
It definitely put you in that place.
Possible. They definitely shot at a breakneck speed to do that, and I love how they also gave him the excuse of having the camera. That's how they had the light.
Yeah, I was gonna say. Yeah, I like they did a good job of giving us an excuse because also he's like, a cameraman wants to document everything. This is obviously a major event, so he's willing to like put his life on the line to get the perfect shot. From if you've seen Nope, you know what I'm talking about. There is a shot where they're walking by like a window. You can see outside, and for I'm still waiting for the supernatural stuff to kick in. So I'm like wondering if there's gonna be like demons and stuff flying around, but there's actually helicopters. So for a minute I couldn't tell what it was, and then like, oh no, just a helicopter. But again, it's so great what they can do on what probably isn't that much of a budget to make this look like this big disaster movie. Again, that's one of the benefits of the first person shooting.
Oh yeah, and also one of the benefits of it being VHS 85 and having almost a old fashioned grainy look to it is you can also get away with the prosthetics and the makeup. And obviously, I'm not saying I think they did a great job in the makeup. I think I love the costuming, but I love it because they can be really creative with that, but not have to be make sure it pops 4K.
Yeah. Oh yeah, no, I've said HD has ruined a lot of horror effects for me. I've been watching a bunch of 80s movies with my kids, and they'll be like, a reveal, or there'll be like a character who steps out in shadow. But now in 4K, you can clearly see who it is, and so it spoils. Like we watched Sleepaway Camp, and you can see that
Ricky
it's
and
Angela. Like,
yeah, but you see that's
Yeah.
Ricky dressed as Angela in the doorway. Yeah,
yeah, there are definitely very clear moments where some things are spoiled. You know, that wouldn't have been spoiled on my crappy little TV.
yeah. I was watching.
A really great
Hellraiser the other day, and there's that scene with that demon that's like in the corridor. You can totally see that there's people pushing it on the cart
right
down the hallway.
And I'll say this: in Texas Chainsaw Massacre, the 4K transfer is a perfect example of how everyone should do 4K transfers. It still keeps that grittiness, just with clarity. And but I think though, like, yeah, there is an effort to clean it up almost too much.
Yeah,
like it's kind of like if you play an old 16-bit video game on a on like on a HD TV, it looks like shit because they designed those sprites to be played on a CRT TV and how it breaks up the pixels. So I think that's that's why I can't judge it. But I know what you mean though. But I can't judge it because I'm like, dude, like they didn't ever expect to have to do this.
right. Like we're watching Ghostbusters in HD, like the matte paintings have become really obvious, like distractingly obvious. Again, they didn't paint those or do that perspective, thinking that they'd ever have to.
I'm a sucker for a good matte. I'm a sucker for a good matte.
I love a good matte painting, but sometimes the 4K transfers don't help them.
Yeah, I do think it's kind of endearing though. It's endearing. It's I don't want to say a lost art, but it's a lost era of filmmaking.
Well, again, it just shows how tangible it is, and I'll take something that's imperfectly tangible than something that's digitally perfect.
Oh yeah,
dude. Watching back, we watched House on Haunted Hill, the remake, the other night. And I actually really enjoy that movie. I think it's actually a pretty creepy movie. It's got Famke Janssen. Yeah, who can be upset about that? I got distracted there, but some of the effects they do, or 13 Ghosts is a good example too. Some of the CGI does not hold up. Like, it looks so bad in hindsight, but those old practical effects, even if you don't love it, you can appreciate the effort and the work. And that's not to say effort doesn't go into CGI. That'd be completely unfair to say, because I'm sure as people working on a CGI back then, they're doing everything they could, technology they had, and working hard. But those old practical effects will never go out of style.
Oh yeah, last night I watched both My Bloody Valentine and the My Bloody Valentine remake, and I was just like, man, if we had gone away from the digital effects and actually done practical in the remake, it would have been 100 times better. It's still fun. I don't hate it. It's still fun.
Man, the Clash of the Titans remake. Remember, my daughter loves that movie. I think it's one of the first action movie I took her in the theater to go see. That wasn't a Disney movie, but it's. Man, I was hoping, man, they just did stop. I was watching a movie. I'm like, it's not bad. It's a fun popcorn film. I don't think it's bad at all. And they make fun of the fucking owl on the stick, so that's always good.
Yeah.
If you have if no one has seen, they walk up to a box and find the owl on a stick. And he goes, "No, that's silly. Leave that there." Which is great. But how much cooler would that have been with modern technology to do stop motion? And I get why they don't, because it'd have been a Phil Tippett project, right? And taken 30 fucking years. But man. But give me a good Harryhausen film, and I'm just
love it.
Damn it! Now I want to watch. I'm thinking of Sinbad. I want to watch some Harryhausen movies.
But to bring it back to this one though, the demon effects are really cool. It's very tangible. This is directed by Gigi Saul Guerrero, and she did one of the segments in Satanic Hispanics, fantastic anthology, and she's actually in this segment as Gabriella, one of the rescue people. So
okay.
Yeah, I like this one quite a bit.
Yeah, I did.
I love the twist at the end because I'm a sucker. We talk about I'm a sucker for Aztec. My grandma's Aztec. I have Aztec blood in me. I'm a sucker for that kind of mythology. And if any of our astute listeners will remember, McClentecoutle is a band I've used twice as my song of the day because they're an awesome Aztec metal band based out of Jason's area, Los Angeles. But I doubt he ever goes to see them live. But he should.
I like that.
I'm out there to see them live. Will you come with me?
Yeah, sure.
Okay.
But I like that I like when they can pull something from a real life example of a demon or deity and use that in the movie.
And it's cool because again, it's a Mexican director really showcasing their roots with a crazy historical event that I think she's young. I don't think she's probably even alive for it, but I'm sure she heard her parents or her relatives talking about it because it was she's
under 40. I mean, she's like over 35, which she might be.
But,
Could've
but
been
what,
like
what, what I mean though is
okay.
you know,
Born in
I would
1990, so
Well,
it
she
happened
still would
before.
have seen the aftermath because I'm sure it took a long time to rebuild.
yeah. So and that's what I mean though. But it's one of those events though that like if you have people that lived in Mexico or family lived in Mexico, they talked about it. Like my nana talked about it, my uncles talked about it for my whole life growing up. So it was a really big event. I love how she kind of blended that culture together. And yeah, man, I'm a sucker for that Aztec mythology. And my question for you guys is was it Mictlantecuhtli causing all this devastation in the earthquake, or was he awakened by the earthquake?
Yeah, I wasn't completely sure about that. I mean, because I have a feeling this being called God of Death.
Yeah.
You know, I think she was playing off of that thing you were saying earlier about how many people actually died in this.
Right.
Yeah.
I don't know if the God of Death was coming to bring that death or if the God of Death was summoned because of that death. But
I
yeah,
think
same
the latter.
question.
I
don't think there's no definitive. I don't think there's a definitive answer in the
Sure.
in the movie.
Oh, there's not. I just want to know what you guys think because it's a podcast about what we think, not about what we fact.
I like both. I like both interpretations. All right, moving on.
All right, the next one is called TKNOGD.
Technogod.
Technogod. All right, we have a performance artist who is on she's got a small little audience and she's on stage and she does her performance artist thing, you know, kind of that exaggerated way of speaking that the world has killed God and replaced him with technology. And then she does this video demonstration where she puts on gloves and a headpiece, VR headset, full body suit, and she goes into this virtual reality world. Okay, and this is the first one that I thought, like, that doesn't feel like 1985 to me. I mean, there was a Virtual Boy from Nintendo around that time, but like,
no, that was more 90s.
Or was it 90s before that actually came out? Either way, it feels a little too advanced for 85, personally. But anyway, so
I was waiting for someone to stand up and yell, "Long live the new Flesh!"
Oh, well, I mean, the VR was more advanced than Lawnmower Man, and Lawnmower Man came out in 91 or 92. So
right. So yeah, it didn't quite fit the time period. But anyway, it shows the video of what she's seeing on a screen, and she does this like incantation to awaken this god of technology. And when she does, this Doom boss figure shows up on the screen, and she tries to remove her headset and gloves, but she can't get it off. The thing attacks her in VR, and her injuries start happening in the real world. Like it scratches her leg, and like a big chunk of flesh pulls off, and one of her legs gets chopped off. And then she dies, and the crowd is like cheering or the way you cheer for performance art, politely clapping. But they thought it was all part of the act. And then the cameraman takes off her helmet, and her brain and facial tissue are removed when the helmet comes off too. For really, great gore effects in this one. Like this is not my favorite segment, probably the weakest one of the whole thing, I think. But man, those effects are pretty great near the end. So yeah, there's something to like in here.
Well, the thing I kind of one thing I did dig, I'm with you. I think this is probably the weakest segment of the bunch. But they kind of nestled it right in the middle, and it wasn't too long to where you're like, what the hell is going on? It was probably
one of the shortest ones too. Yeah.
Yeah. But again, the payoff I thought was fantastic.
Yes.
Yeah. And the other thing I do like about it is how I love the shots of the crowd that even when she's getting this massacred, they have like this beatnik appeal to them where they're just, they're too cool. They're too cool to be fooled to think this is actually real. And that's kind of and also the apathy towards violence, I guess. But I thought that was really cool, and it did look like an '80s music video, actually, which I thought was also kind of neat.
Yeah.
Now the VR sections, do you think that was CG, or do you think they actually built like a set and just lit it to look like and just kind of grained it up? I was trying to figure that out.
I don't know. It might be overthinking it there.
Yeah. I mean, like I said a Doom boss because I mean that.
Well, yeah, the boss definitely looked like a Doom, character.
Yeah, it definitely looks silly, but I don't know. I'm pretty forgiving on some stuff.
Of all video games I wouldn't want to be in, Doom is high up on that list.
Yeah. Oh, double super shotgun? That'd be kind of sweet.
No, I don't
BFG?
want to fight demons. No, see, I want to be able to hang out in the Doomslayer like suit,
Yeah.
be in like Kirby's world and just fucking up some marshmallows.
The massacre all those
little mushrooms and stuff.
Yeah. It's like how I fucking take out those white belts at jiu-jitsu. It'd be fun.
I think it was partly because of the headspace I was in. I was just like, the first two were just way too realistic to me, at the beginnings at least. So for this one to be like weird from the beginning, I was like, okay, I can finally settle. This is why I was finally able to settle in.
This is a movie. It felt like I can get that, where it feels a little more like, okay, now I know I'm watching fun stuff. Like this is to be entertaining,
right? Yeah. Like I can again, the horror fan of me says, yeah, this is probably the weakest, but it was a little bit of a reprieve from
But you know what? The time and headspace you see a movie in, it does matter. Like it really does. Like there are movies that are probably good movies I don't like. Just I remember the headspace I was in when I watched it, and it's like,
or sometimes you see a movie and it totally turns your headspace around. Like I remember the first time I saw Clerks at a friend's house, I was really depressed and mad about something. I was like a teen or whatever, and that movie just totally like changed my whole perspective. Like at the moment,
I think one of the reasons why I'm a Blair Witch 2 apologist is because I saw that movie opening day in the theater with a fun crowd, and and I had to drive my buddy into the outskirts of Nevada, and I was driving back like basically nobody else on the road, thinking I was in my van with no speedometer, so I don't know how fast I was going, but pretty fast, thinking like the fucking Blair Witch is chasing me. I have to go faster and get home. Yeah. And I'll never forget that feeling of how it made me feel, even when I watch it today. And so I definitely think it's valid. Like, and like you obviously this day haven't forgotten how Clerks made you feel when you saw it. And that's one of the beauties of cinema, right? Like it's actually a really cool thing. I told you guys a couple weeks ago, one of my favorite comfort food movies for me is Ernest Goes to Camp, because it reminds me of a rainy day in Virginia, being fucking 5 years old, 6 years old, whatever, and on my grandpa's couch, like when life was the bee's knees.
Yeah, totally get that.
But good, okay episode, good payoff, good.
The payoff definitely, for me, redeems this one. Just in general though, like this movie has a lot of great gore in it. Just to bring that up over the whole thing, like I've got the latest issue of Fangoria sitting right here next to me, and there's 3 pictures from this movie on the cover because there's so many just incredible looking effects in this one.
Yeah. So this one is directed by Natasha Kermani. She directed Imitation Girl and Lucky.
Oh, interesting.
Familiar with those, but it's more of an indie director. So that's what I like about this, and we'll get into some of the bigger people that were on these segments. I like that it's taking kind of more indie, small directors and kind of putting them with some really big ones. And that's what I love about the VHS series, so that it's kind of been doing that from the beginning, kind of giving different directors a chance to show their skills.
Yeah, it's fun because sometimes you get the director you've already heard of, but then also sometimes you get that director you haven't heard of yet, but a couple years later you definitely have heard of them. This is a start for a lot of people.
And even like this one, it might not be my favorite segment, but it's got promise where I'm like, I want to see what this director does next.
Absolutely.
Interesting. Outwater is an example of that too. If anybody hasn't seen Outwaters, found footage film they showed at Chattanooga Film Festival a couple years ago. It was one of those movies where I watched it, I'm like, I don't think that was a good movie. And not that it's bad, it's just it's very DIY and needs a lot of editing, needs to be shortened down. But I was like, but god damn it, if they can pull this off, I'm excited for what they do next.
Yeah, absolutely.
And that's okay. There's nothing wrong with that. I think it's a good place. I think it's actually a really perfect role of anthology, is to give those directors a chance to get their teeth wet, and all that. Teeth wet? What the fuck is that thing? I don't know.
Feet wet.
Yeah.
All right. Next, Jody.
Jason just likes getting wet. But,
all right. This next segment is called Ambrosia. And it starts, it reminded me of family movies that still exist at my parents' house on VHS tapes. There's this girl and there's a family get together. She's kind of going around talking to people, getting the food together. She takes over the camera and starts recording from her, I guess, like a weird cousin. I don't know, kind of a, long-haired guy. Looking like an 80s rough kid,
As a man that had long hair for like most of my life, there's nothing wrong with long hair, Jody. Just because you guys don't have hair, you can't be mad.
It's jealousy. It's jealousy.
What I appreciate about him, though, he was like, he was asking them if it's beta or
Yeah.
Yeah, he was definitely though that family member that you don't let small children like hang out with by themselves. Like, he was like that guy definitely had that. Let's be honest, that guy had that vibe. Like,
you don't want to get stuck in a conversation with cousin Jimmy over there.
Yeah.
Like, oh God, Jimmy.
Did you guys see that creepy Folgers coffee commercial with like the son and the that's what this guy grew up into. Like, he's definitely that guy. As you got to
I bet he has a great VHS collection.
Oh yeah, all kinds of good stuff.
Not man,
I mean, we're probably insulting our own
Betamax.
people. We're insulting our own people here with this guy. But anyway, so while they're outside,
let's make fun of the nerd. Let's make fun of the nerd because we're not all fucking nerds here.
Yeah, right.
Cool.
Yeah, I mean, it's nothing nerdy about having a podcast about talking about movies and stuff. So anyway, while she's kind of walking around and filming the family, one of the little boys shoots a water gun at her, and she gets really angry and says, "Where'd you get it?" And he says, "The lady in the RV." And we see an RV drive off. Later that day, though, the party is over, and there's just a handful of people kind of staying around, and they say, "We're going to be celebrating this family tradition." So the girl gets up and she makes this speech about how some families have bar mitzvahs and some families have sweet 16s and quinceañeras. But our family milestone is that we go out and kill 7 people. And those 7 people bless us and give us prosperity and good things in our lives. And so everybody in here, they're murderers. And they've all done this. They've killed their 7 people. 7. Notice VII from earlier.
Right. So at one point,
who doesn't understand Roman numerals.
And at one point
That's
earlier, we get a glimpse of someone's hand and we see a tattoo.
Right.
And you're not entirely sure what it is. You think you see it. Like you can see it's some sort of lettering, but you can't quite see what it is. And as they do this, they all start putting their hands up, and then you see they all have the same tattoo. Right. It's all the 7 that was on the van from the first segment.
And I will say,
sorry, she's talking about everyone's murders, and she goes like, "And Aunt Joy, the arsenic brownies," and Aunt Joy does that classic old white woman face, like, has the approval, and everyone's like, "Yeah, that was fucking great." Like,
and she says, instead of sharing photos of what I did for my rite of passage here, I made a video. And so she's going to reveal this video recording, and she shows the camper and the tent and everything from the lake in the first segment in No Wake. And that was the moment I went, "Oh, holy crap, we're back to the story again."
Yeah.
Like the seven like tickled a little itch in my brain, and I was like, wait a second, why do I know this? But so much had happened between, we've had, VR face ripping off and earthquakes. I didn't really remember what the 7 was at that point. Like, I remembered seeing it, but I forgot what it was.
I think when I first saw the tattoo, I kind of recognized it was the same typeface as what was on the van. And then when the boy says the van people and I see the water gun, I instantly got that they were that they handed the gun to the boy.
Yeah.
To shoot
I was a little slow on the uptake here, but
that was the point where that whole segment kind of turned around. I was like, okay, I see where they're going.
When you said the van people, I just envisioned a caravan of like old Econoline Chevy vans at a rest stop, all like pointed into it like a star, and everyone just sitting in the middle in a drum circle for some reason. The van people. I used to have a van. Love my van.
But she shows the video, and it's her, kind of driving up to this place, and she gets out her rifle and basically just takes her shots and kills all the kids from earlier. And but before the video can finish playing, you hear police sirens, and all the family like jumps up like, okay, this is what we've been training for. They all get their guns, get their weapons together. And Ruth's mother, her name's Ruth, tells her that if she's the last one left, you need to die and don't let the police take you into custody. Like, whatever you do, it's better to be dead. And so there's gunfire and shots ringing out, and the police run in, they kill everybody, and then they shoot her.
Well, Robots, she kills her cousin though, because he refuses to pick up a gun to fight back.
Mm-hmm.
So she shoots him, and that's when the camera falls down, and the rest of it, the camera's just prone.
Yeah. No, I think they did a good job with the camera on these two, because like on the God of Death segment, there was a reason for the camera. Same thing for the
Techno God,
performance
obviously.
art thing. Yeah. But the other ones, like there were multiple times that the camera just got dropped because people got shot and the camera's laying there and then somebody picks it up or we see it laying on its side and it's just kind of shooting an abandoned camera, you know.
They actually did a really nice piece in that first segment. I totally forgot about this, where someone like screaming needed help. I think like the guy dropped the camera to go help them. I thought this was a real nice touch. Like then he went and picked it up later, but I think it was still a nice little thing to do.
But it's not in someone's hand the entire time. There are multiple times when the camera falls to the ground and just keeps recording.
Sorry, we keep going into this because it was.
Yeah, because I think we're all big fans of found footage horror, but like the big sniff test is to tell if the filmmakers are really caring about this is if they can justify them keep filming. And usually if I'm watching one and I'm like, why are they still filming? Have they solved that problem? If they don't solve that problem, I'm kind of like, okay, they didn't really think this through enough.
I think it's going to be more prevalent as we get older, because everyone's got their cell phone out for fucking everything. Like, it's crazy because a client of ours was telling us their casino had a fire alarm go off, and it was a legit fire alarm. It ended up not being a fire, but it was a false alarm. But there are people that the first thing they did before they actually went to an exit was pull their phones out.
Sure.
Because it's more important to get that video and get that viral shot than it is to get the safety. So I think I actually have less of a problem the older I get of these things happening, because I realize that we're a society that wants to document everything on our goddamn phones. And to be fair, nothing wrong with that. Like if you're the person that wants to go to a concert and record the whole thing and that makes you happy later, like be that person. Like who am I to judge you? But
I feel like somewhere in God of Death, like it came up where somebody was like, this is an important moment, like I want to keep this on camera too. Like they were using it as a light, but also they were like, I want to document this, whatever's happening here.
If I see the Aztec God of Death and I'm carrying a video camera, like we're videotaping. Like
yeah.
No one's gonna believe this.
So anyway, back to this segment. Ruth does get shot dead. She fires at the police. They fire at her. She dies.
Well, and real fast, she tries to kill herself first.
Right, but they shoot at her. And she shoots her
first. I'm sorry. You're right.
Yeah. And so when the police come up to clean up the body, she suddenly wakes up and she shoots at the coroner, I guess, and she tries shooting herself in the head, but she doesn't die. And the police come and arrest her. And then the video shows that the woman who gave the little boy the water pistol was one of the kids from the beginning who had died and come back. And they fill it up from the lake, and they're like, I hope this works.
Yeah, which I don't think they needed. I think we got it.
Yeah, but it didn't bother me.
It was fine. Like if it would have been like a 5-minute exposition at the end of it, then that would have been bad. But 10 seconds is perfect.
I guess I was gonna, I was kind of hoping.
I don't think it was needed, but it was fine. I think it wasn't.
Yeah. It didn't. Yeah.
I was hoping to go a little bit further with that, with her like keep trying to get up and keep getting shot by the police like over and over and over again, or like her keep trying to shoot herself and then not working.
Dude, the suicide attempt was pretty good. Like that was jarring for a second because like the way that it's such a good effect. And then watching her just come to and be like, "What the fuck?" was well done. Very well.
I just wanted to be like almost like a cartoon, like Itchy and Scratchy, of her just keep like trying to find ways to kill herself, keep failing. Like Itchy and Scratchy were one person trying to kill itself.
I just imagine like Cat Dog with Itchy and Scratchy going to the anus.
Yeah. All right. So this segment, both parts. So I like that this one's called Ambrosia because that's that like kind of sickening dessert that everyone brings to those kind of parties that no one likes to eat. That's like fruit salad and Jello and cottage cheese.
Fluff.
Yeah,
so first of all, it sounds amazing.
I mean, I don't hate ambrosia. That's one of those family get-together things. The mandarin oranges up on top, marshmallows floating around. It's nonsense.
It's too much. Too many things happening.
I can't eat any of that. But ambrosia means the food of the gods in either Greek or Latin or whatever old language that we're schnars and we need them. Like some fucking old language that only people.
But I mean, it definitely this one up until everyone started talking about all the murders they committed, it looked like a home video. Like especially in '85 when cameras were new and everyone's excited, like, oh wow, you got the camera. Yeah. I remember my dad pulling out the camera for, family get-togethers and walking around and videoing people. It felt very authentic to the time, for sure.
This one is directed. So both parts of the segment are directed by Mike P. Nelson. He most recently did the new Wrong Turn movie.
Okay.
I have not seen that. I've
Yeah,
heard of stuff.
yeah, it was pretty good. I haven't seen that
Yeah.
one either.
Some of the complaints about it were that it plays like a slasher, and I'm like, that's totally
Yeah.
okay.
Yeah,
That sounds good to me.
It is.
darn. All right, we got one more, Jody.
All right. Our darkest segment, Dream Kill. So we start with seeing a home invasion from the point of view of a killer. And you hear a woman calling 911, and the killer finds her, ties her up with duct tape, slits her throat with an electric knife.
It was one of those turkey carving knives.
Yeah, yeah. Cuts her eyeballs open with a straight razor. It's pretty nasty.
Yeah.
And then the police arrive there, and it switches camera at this point. Like there's a different camera. It's more like there's a guy working for the police who's videoing everything for evidence purposes. And he says, one of the lead detective says, I've seen this scene that we're seeing right here. Like I've seen this house, because he got the first thing that we saw, he got a video with that on it in the mail.
Basically, what you're watching, I think, is his video. Is the video he's seen, and later on, afterwards, the killing happens.
Right.
But before you saw the video before the killings actually happened. There was
the killing is on video. It gets mailed to the detective, and then the detective finds the body and is commenting, I think I've seen this house. It looks like something I've seen recently, and then realizes, oh shit, this is the video. But he also realizes that the murder had to have taken place pretty recently, but he got the video like a week ago before it could have even happened. And so it's confusing, but he gets another video that we see from the killer's perspective, another home invasion, and he cuts off this man's fingers and murders him and peels off a piece of his leg, cuts his chest open, and police arrive at the home. And again, he says, I've already seen this. I've already seen this happen. And I got it several days ago, and this just happened. And so he tries to track the source of the tape, captures the person responsible for sending it. And it's this goth kid named Gunther, who is the son, whose son is one of the detective's sons.
Mm-hmm.
I thought the videographer or something.
Yeah,
like crime scene videographer.
Yeah. But it's one of the people involved with the police there, and his son is this kind of gothy kid, dark hair, pale skin, 80s goth.
He was straight dressed like a member of the Cure, like he really was.
Oh yeah, 100%. And so they ask him about it, and he says that these murders, he saw them take place in his dreams, and then those dreams ended up on videotapes that were like at his house. Like there were tapes sitting around the house, and he dreamed these things, and it transferred over to the tapes. And so the detectives aren't sure they believe him, but his dad says, we do have this kind of psychic gift. My sister went through something very similar. She had psychic dreams when her brother was kidnapped. And so there's this final tape found, and there's a third murder. The victim's dismembered and decapitated, and they recognize the home and try to get there first. Outside the home, they have a confrontation saying, like all of these, or the lead detective talks to the dad there and says, all of these people are people you're connected to. I've looked into this. One of them was accusing you of sexual assault and stalking. The second man was the attorney representing them. And he pleads for him to tell the truth. And he shoots the detective in the head right there in the car.
Pretty jarring, too. I was not expecting that.
Out of nowhere. And then he goes into the house to commit the murder from the dream. And while at the police station, though, the kid looks into the camera in the interrogation room and sees that it's playing back his dream right there. And so when his dad arrives back at the station, the kid realizes his father is the killer. And he says, I know how it ends. I've seen this in my dream. And then the detective guy tries to kill his son, but the police officers come and open fire on him. And then the kid shoots his dad, and that ends the segment. kind of confusing in the way I'm describing it, but it makes sense.
No.
It's a hard one to describe. There's a lot
Dude,
going on.
It's very well done though, and the
Mm-hmm.
gore is very graphic and very
It's very
unsettling.
visceral.
Yeah, it's over the top to an extent, but it feels very realistic as far as like the gore goes.
The gore in this one feels very, gritty snuff filmy. Like, like, am I supposed to be watching this kind of stuff?
Well,
it feels very personal. If that makes sense. Like as far as the kills go.
Well, again, because the kills are personal to him.
But they do a good job conveying that.
Not to bury the lead on this. This is directed by Scott Derrickson, who did Sinister, which is
and it feels
very
like
similar. First person video.
That
murder.
fucking lawnmower scene.
The lawnmower. Jeez.
So Scott Derrickson, he also did Exorcism of Emily Rose, Hellraiser Inferno, Doctor Strange, and most recently The Black Phone. So again, we got another horror heavy hitter.
And this one was written by his writing partner, C. Robert Cargill, who wrote all of his other big ones. Like he wrote Sinister, awesome. He wrote Black Phone.
Like I wonder if this was like a spec script or something that they just couldn't get funding for, and they decided to make it like a bit of an extended short, because I feel this could be a whole movie.
It's a lot more violent than what they normally put out. You know, other than the lawnmower.
I think if this is fleshed out to a whole movie, like Joey said, it'd be a lot. I don't think you'd see any more violence. You just see the in betweens fleshed out more, which I don't think are really needed. Like I got the whole story fit nicely in that compartment, and I thought this worked really well.
But it's just really well thought out.
And overall, aside from Techno God, the theme kind of is very visceral, realistic horror through all of this. Even the last segment, one of the most disturbing things about the segment with the family and the cult of the seven or whatever was how just nonchalant they were about these murders. Like it was almost like a quinceañera, like your rite of passage when you become of age. These are the because you're thinking it's a graduation party or something like that. What it sounds like, and but I think a thread throughout all of these, aside from Techno God, which even that, and I'm not knocking it, I'm just saying it was different, which is actually kind of nice. But it was very visceral, like realistic horror that could happen to you. I mean, I don't think you're gonna meet Mictlantecuhtli, the god of death. I mean, you might, I don't know, but I do think you could die in an earthquake and get hit with a fucking piece of rebar in the head. I mean, that's what makes it kind of fucking scary.
Yeah.
I think the acting in pretty much all these is actually pretty good. This one especially.
They never really force. I mean, this is probably the one that's most carried by the acting, by the lead detective and the son. But they do a really smart thing too with a lot of these, where they don't ever make one of these small, probably actors are on their way up. They don't make any of them try to carry the whole segment themselves.
Right. Or they don't make anyone like the obnoxious guy who were just
no one's typecast, no one's like put on spot to try to carry this and not the chops to do that. They're all given time to play off each other, which I think comes off pretty organic.
Well, because they use a lot of unknown actors, there's never this moment of like, oh, this is a movie, like But I didn't even realize the dad in this segment is played by James Rascombe, or Rasson, I don't know how to say his name, but anyway, he's in It Chapter 2. He's Eddie.
Cool.
Oh, okay.
But I didn't recognize him watching through this. That's probably the only like name actor in this whole thing.
I blocked It Chapter 2 out of my brain because I spent.
I like it all right. I don't like the ending, but
it was too much.
Yeah, spent $12 to watch that in the fucking theater, and I was angry.
But yeah, I thought this was a really good, as far as like circling the descent, was a good segment for that. It was kind of big, bombastic. Okay, it brings us home with the end of the wraparound.
Yeah, so the creature who's been doing the shape shifting, he gets unresponsive and he starts acting sick. And the doctor is like, "We need to help him. We need to go in and help him." And he's obviously gotten very attached to this thing that they're supposed to be, studying, not having a relationship with. And he quits in responding, and so he runs into the room to give him an adrenaline shot. But before he can do that, all these tentacles or feelers or whatever come out of him, and he wraps around arms, and they start like going throughout the whole lab and grabbing onto things. And in the end, we see that he has gotten the bodies of all these people that he kills with these tentacles, and he is making them do the exercises from the exercise videos, like
Yeah.
got the like hip thrust on their backs, and it was a nice payoff. Like it was almost just like a joke that lasted throughout the entire thing, but
Yeah.
I thought it was
It was
worthwhile for that
it's
payoff.
kind of like the Aristocrats, where like
Yeah.
you're just waiting for the worst payoff ever, like most goriest, over the top, and then we get this really silly, like, oh, it just wants them to do the things it sees on TV.
Well, I mean, can you tell everybody the Aristocrats joke while we're here?
I don't think that's public consumption. Maybe.
There is a movie called The Aristocrats.
It's
Oh
fun.
yeah, no, I've seen it.
It's actually a really fun documentary with a bunch of like people.
Bob Saget's is the best.
Oh.
This is the nastiest. Bob
I'll
Saget's
say
so gross.
I took a girl on a date to that movie.
Oh, gee.
What the
I didn't know how bad that was going to be.
was it? Kira?
No,
Oh, that'd been
no,
awesome.
I took her to see Let the Right One In. The best thing
I
was
don't know
though,
what's worse actually. Like,
I know the best was on the theater website, because it was like an independent theater. They used the poster for the Aristocats on their website.
amazing.
It's a very different movie.
Very different movie.
Oh damn it! Bob Saget. Every time you guys met my story about the first time I saw Bob Saget live, and I went there with it was a House of Blues here in Las Vegas. I went there with my buddy Phil and his wife, who's a dentist now, but at the time she was working VIP at the Mandalay Bay, so she knew the bouncer. So we got a nice table and everything, and
Nice.
we're sitting there. It's me, it's her, it's my buddy Phil, and then these three old people next to us who were dressed a little bit too nice to be in the House of Blues in Las Vegas. And I heard them talking. I was like, oh, shit. They don't know Bob Saget's stand-up at all. And they're both like,
Danny Tanner.
dude, they're talking about America's Funniest Home Videos and like how.
Oh, no.
And all you have to know is there's a guy in the front row who is handcuffed to an inflatable sheep because it's his bachelor party. And you can just imagine where Bob Saget went in from there. And these three people, they all are doing this and sharing these glances back and forth each other. And they all silently just stand up and like form a single file line and exit out of the building. And you could tell they were just like, what the fuck? Like, this is not Danny Tanner and Uncle Jesse.
See, I still remember the first time I saw Bob Saget hosting SNL as a kid. And just even that in his monologue, he was like, I could finally say things like wieners, nipples, and ass. And he just kept saying wieners, nipples, and ass over and over and over. I'm like, this is not the guy who I expected. And then I heard his like real stand up after that.
And he sings songs at the end. And John Stamos came out to sing a song with him, which I thought was actually really cool. Really cool experience. And if you ever want to listen to a funny story, you can look up on YouTube. I think it's Bob Saget when he talks about how he was in the bathroom one time at a convention, and he knows this kid like looked at him, like recognized him, and then John Stamos came in after him, so he just started going, "Hey, Uncle Jesse!" Like, and they started doing it in character. He goes, I think this kid was stoned because he's freaking the fuck out. Like, holy shit, Full House is real. If Reginald Del Johnson walked in next, I'd be like, dressed as a cop. That'd be perfect.
All right. So let's wrap it up. Were your favorite? Give us any final thoughts on what was your favorite segment?
So we forgot to mention one director.
Oh yes.
The wraparound was done by David Bruckner.
Oh yeah.
Who has done he was on Southbound, he was The Ritual, and the new Hellraiser. He did all those.
He also did a segment in the very first VHS movie.
Yeah.
So that's a cool
solid horror director.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. I love The Ritual. It's excellent movie.
Yeah, The Ritual's really good.
I like the Hellraiser in bits, but yeah, they had some issues. But
yeah, I like the new Hellraiser a lot. But I do also, the issues that people bring up, they're valid. Like there's some issues. But
all right, so what were you guys' favorite segments?
The two-parter for sure, especially once I realized what was going on and that this was the second part of that first one. That was a great moment. Just realizing that we got some closure to that first story.
Mondo.
God of Death, because I love just the frantic, like claustrophobia feeling, and that movie really kind of put me on edge. And then
Yeah.
at the end with the come on, I love Aztec culture and Aztec mythology. I'm fucking Aztec myself, and it was that end piece was just kind of a chest kiss for me. So that was my favorite. And it's not a knock. Like also, I had to struggle with that one because God, this is actually one of the better installments of VHS.
Yeah, I will say I definitely. I would say none of these are bad. Definitely, and some I would. I'll go for it. All these are good to varying degrees. I'm gonna go with Dreamkill.
Okay.
It's the most ambitious. It's like I said, I feel like it could have. I wanted more of this. I could have watched much more. And hit the right bit of like I like the gore, and it was definitely spooky and had some cool ideas, very unique. I think I would have liked the two. I love the audacity of the two-parter. Like that's some balls in it to have an anthology that you split into two pieces and like leave people hanging like that. I think if it would have gone back to the people in the van or given us a little like a coda with them showing like what happens next or something, I would have liked that one a little bit better.
I'm almost surprised that one wasn't like the second one, because to start off on that one was even more ambitious. Because I was like, oh, okay, we're getting the cliff,
Yeah.
At first, I was like, man, I hope the rest of it doesn't kind of go this way and let me down at the end. But then, it didn't.
So I like the audacity of that one. It's just missing a little bit to me, but I give it full props for trying new things. And I also overall of all these, I think they're very ambitious. And ambition's good for these kind of things.
I feel like this is just like VHS2, pretty consistent. There's the VR one's a little bit weaker than some of the other ones, but it's also short and it has a good payoff.
Yeah.
So it's consistently good through the whole thing, which is not something you get in a lot of anthologies.
Yeah, nothing made me like check my phone or check the clock to see how long has it been.
I was into this one.
Yeah.
Okay. Mondo, give us your song of the day.
Alrighty. So I was trying to find the year 1985 was actually a fucking great year for metal music. You had Slayer's Hell Awaits come out, their second album, which was iconic. Destruction's first record came out that year, which, as you guys all know, just golden age of German Teutonic thrash, one of the big three heavyweights of that. Hyrax, Bay Area thrash, I think their second record came out that year. You had records by Exciter, by fucking Ronnie James Dio. Live After Death, the greatest live album of all time, came out in 1985. Just a lot of great New Saxon record, Blitzkrieg record, like all kinds of great stuff came out that year. But there's one I have to highlight. It's a band called Celtic Frost, and they put out a record called To Megatherion that year, which ended up being, at least in my opinion, one of the. It's really a seminal accomplishment in that kind of an extreme metal genre. Tom Gabriel Fisher, started a band called Hellhammer in 1981, which is, there are people who are like, oh, Hellhammer was the best. I respect Hellhammer for what they did, but that music was primitive as fuck and not well played. And then he expanded upon that when he came to Celtic Frost. And in 84, they released the Morbid Tales EP, which is probably my favorite work they've ever done. And then that was an EP, and they released the Emperor Returns EP. So if you find Morbid Tales right now on CD or on Apple Music or Spotify or vinyl, it's basically the Morbid Tales EP and the Emperor Returns EP put together. And then To Megatherion came out in 1985, featuring cover artwork by H.R. Giger. And it's a really, and if anybody's seen the H.R. Giger documentary, it's the most Dark Star, I think it was called. One of the most recent ones. It's a really great documentary, but Tom Gabriel Fisher, Tom G. Warrior, is in that a lot because he became very, very close friends with H.R. Giger. And it was H.R. Giger actually discovering Celtic Frost music, which is kind of crazy, being this underground extreme band and kind of falling in love with the DIY process of it. And Tom Warrior is one of those guys. He has a tragic backstory. Like, he grew up in an apartment with his mom was a prostitute, and she wouldn't come home for days while he was like 7-8 years old, and he fed himself and clothed himself and bathed himself. They had animals everywhere in the house, fucking animal shit everywhere. Like, he literally pulled himself up out of the muck. But I think his music really reflects that, because To Megatherion or even Morbid Tales is kind of considered the blueprint for death metal and black metal. Like, everything that came after that owes something to that record, and that's not debatable. Like, there are people who, Norwegians get mad because he was Swedish, I think, and they're like, Norway's a home. No, dude, like it all came from Celtic Frost and from Bathory, and probably more so from Celtic Frost those early days. And great music too. Like I think most people probably heard, not most part, but if you're in the metal, you've probably heard Procreation of the Wicked. A lot of bands have covered that. The song I'm going to pick off the album To Megatherion, which is again a landmark in extreme metal and unlike anything that came out at the time, is probably the most popular song off there. Because I think it's probably the most accessible to most people who may not be into this genre. It's called Circle of the Tyrants. And if you want to hear like the early precursor or the early like blueprint for modern extreme metal, for anyone out there who's into like deathcore and stuff that I hate, it's totally fine. It's not my shit. But if you listen to this, you can see like where that blueprint was originally. Maybe not the blueprint for that, but the foundation was at least laid down. And it's really cool that I was going through, I was trying to figure out an album from 1985, and I saw this one popped up that it came out in 85. I was like, oh shit, yeah, I have to do To Megatherion. Highly recommended. And then another band in 1985 came out with a new record, a band called Stormtroopers of Death, SOD, fronted by Billy Milano, who I think is dead now. And Scott Ian from Anthrax is in the band. And it was very controversial because the album was called Speak English or Die. And believe me, like especially nowadays, like Scott Ian has explained himself a million times about why they chose that album title. It was not meant to be xenophobic. They're kind of making during the Cold War, they were kind of making a joke about it, but he explains it better than I do. But they actually came out with their second record like 10 years later, or I think I was in high school, so probably like in 99, 2000, so 15 years later, called Bigger Than the Devil. And they put a song on there called Celtic Frosted Flakes. And to this day, I think it's the funniest song title of all time.
That's good.
And there's a documentary that a guy named Bill Zebub. Do you guys know Bill Zebub?
I know the name.
He did a metal zine back in the day called Grimoire of Exalted Deeds, but then he went on to do his own horror movie label. It's the most DIY of DIY you've ever seen. His goal is to be as over the top and as controversial. Like he made a movie called Jesus Christ, the Serial Rapist. like this is what this guy does. Like it's just meant to be over the top. He did one called The Worst Movie Ever Made, which is probably actually his best movie. I think one of his current movies he's making is called Grammar Nazis, and yes, it's exactly what you think it is. So I'm just saying, like, the guy's fucking out there. But he did one of the best documentaries I think on black metal called Black Metal, the documentary, where it's more him just candidly talking to bands and having a good time with them. But he catches up a Tom G. Warrior and he goes, what do you think of Celtic Frosted Flakes? And he played a song for him. He goes, and one of the lines is, whatever happened to Celtic Frost? And he goes, whatever happened to Celtic Frost? Fuck you. Whatever happened to SOD? Fuck all of you. He was so mad because he takes his music very seriously. And then towards the end of Celtic Frost's career, they really switched styles with the Monotheist to more industrial, like just doom. And it was, in my opinion, the most brilliant work they did. Like that's sacrilege to Celtic Frost fans. So, and then after that, he actually decided, well, I can't be Celtic Frost anymore which more bands should do this. If you take such a drastic departure from your style, change your name.
Sure.
So he changed the name to Triptychon and then released two outstanding records, Esperos Daemon, Milana Kazmata, and Espetos Daemons. I don't know. Just fucking look it up. It's Triptychon. And then a live album with the symphony orchestra, which is just out of this fucking world. But I'm a huge Tom G. Warrior fan. To this, when H.R. Giger passed away, Giger actually pointed out that Tom G was one of his best like friends and was going to be the guy that helped his estate. And it's what's funny is one of the few concerts he ever canceled in the U.S. was when H.R. Giger died because he was supposed to speak at the guy's funeral. But at the end of the day, I think the coolest part of the whole story of Celtic Frost is the fact that this fucking artist named H.R. Giger heard their music and goes, I want to give them. So like if the cover of To Megatherion is his famous painting, Satan I don't remember. And it's a cool cover. So look at it if you're just a fan of morbid artwork, but fucking extreme metal, horror, it's always kind of been tied to the joined at the hip.
Nice.
For better or for worse.
All right. Thank you, Mondo. All right. Jody, give us some horror news.
All right. So we are another peek behind the curtain. We're recording on Thursday, the 12th of October, and tomorrow is Friday the 13th, and it is an insane day. for releases. So we have Mike Flanagan's The Fall of the House of Usher series releasing on Netflix tomorrow. Super excited about that because it seems to be more along the lines of like The Haunting of Hill House or Midnight Mass and not Midnight Club, the one that kind of this is Mike Flanagan doing the whole thing again. He's directing everything. Very excited about it. Got a lot of his normal cast in there.
Early reviews have been very, very positive.
Yes. There's a documentary on Hulu that I would like to check out called Monster Inside, because it's about McCamey Manor, and I don't believe it exists anymore. Look up Reckless Ben on YouTube, but I'm still interested to see what this does.
I joined Reckless Ben's Patreon just for the updates. It's been fantastic. It's been fucking fantastic.
I am a McCamey Manor truther. I do not believe it exists at all. I believe that it is just a yard.
Me too.
But check it out.
I went down the rabbit hole.
Yeah,
for a couple of days,
wild.
binging all of the different videos.
Much like the Earth being flat, McCamey Manor does not exist.
Just like birds.
For the record, I like conspiracy theories. I fucking know the Earth is round, so I'm not a fucking moron.
Yeah. Other things coming out tomorrow. Creep Show comes back for a new season on Shudder. And let's see here. There's so many. The movie Dark Harvest comes out tomorrow. Norman Partridge's novel. It's one of those, like, I've read the novel. It's very much set on Halloween. It is a Halloween novel. It's a Halloween movie.
Is it the Scarecrow one? Like, wasn't there a Scarecrow movie made like called that? Or am I making it up?
Oh my god! I mean, I can picture the DVD cover now.
Yeah,
like a red, like a sunset with the Scarecrow.
Something else.
Yeah. So, but I mean, this is very much a Halloween movie, so definitely check that out. There's a new Goosebumps series that launches on Disney Plus tomorrow. Always down for entry horror for people.
Yeah.
There's a movie called The Elderly coming out. There's just so many things.
So The Elderly we saw at Chattanooga Film Festival, and I like that movie a lot.
It's really good. I like it a lot.
They don't pull punches in that movie. It's some of the violence towards the end is jarring in a good in
There's a lot of violence
good way.
And a lot of full frontal nudity from old men. So be ready for that.
If you've never been in a men's locker room at the gym, then be prepared for some shrivelly wings.
John Carpenter has a new series called Suburban Screams coming out tomorrow. That's kind of a true crime meets like documentary style thing. I know not everyone's into true crime, but definitely some people are. So
his name's is his name just attached to it, or did he actually work?
I don't know. I don't know how much he did.
I think he hosts it. So supposedly he never left his couch or something like that. Cool. So I think he just like voiced over or record like segments, like introducing.
I'm not gonna lie, he's at this point, if someone wants to pay him to slap his name on it, fucking by all means, dude, go play your video games and get those royalty checks.
That's right.
The fucking life.
Another one that I'm excited about. So there was a movie that I do this October Scare-a-thon every year. And a few years back, there was a movie on Netflix called 13 Cameras. This old man, and he's spying on people with these cameras. And there was a sequel called 14 Cameras. Well, tomorrow 15 Cameras comes out, and they've all been pretty good. Like they're good movies, so definitely worth checking out. Let's see.
Next one, he'll get wise and put up like 27 cameras to make sure he catches everybody.
There's just so many. Dear David is another movie coming out based on a viral Twitter thread. I don't know if that's going to work out. But anyway, lots and lots of stuff coming out. I know tomorrow I will be watching a marathon with Chattanooga Film Fest. It's called the Frightening Ass Film Festival. I would say go buy a ticket, but by the time this comes out, it'll already be passed. So sorry you missed it. But
yeah, I still buy a ticket for that, even if I'm not going to watch it, because I just want to support those guys. I have no problem giving my money to even if I can't watch it, to support them, because what they do is really remarkable. I'm a little biased, I guess, but no, we were fans of Chattanooga Film Festival before we ever sat down to the podcast. So
absolutely.
Real quick plug for a movie. It came out, I think, like a week or so ago. Was Totally Killer.
Yes,
which really fun. I had a really good time.
I haven't seen that yet, but it looks.
I won't
really
spoil
good.
anything. At least I won't spoil anything that's not in the trailer. But it's very much Happy Death Day to You.
Nice
Type of like horror comedy.
Back to the Future.
But this one's more riff on Back to the Future.
Yeah.
It's kind of was it the final girl or final girl? I can't keep track which one it was. It's a little bit of that, a little Back to the Future, a little Happy Death Day. It's just fun. Like it wasn't.
The other one I started watching, and I had to turn it off because I was pretty high, and I was like, I just can't. My brain can't follow this. Was No One Will Save You.
Yeah, that's good. I really enjoyed that.
By the director of Spontaneous, right?
Yeah, that's blanking on the name right now, but
I
director Spontaneous. He wrote The Babysitter. He wrote Love and Monsters. I really like him, but I can't remember his name right now.
And Hulu also has another one coming out because they do a lot of stuff they call Huluween. They've historically put out a lot of horror films around this time of the year. One called Appendage.
Yeah, I saw that too,
which I have not seen, but exists.
Another one that's not a brand new movie, but one that you need to check out this month. The Timekeepers of Eternity.
Yes,
is available for free on Vimeo, right?
Yeah. Can you explain this to me?
Okay, so they took the movie. Okay, are you familiar with the Stephen King miniseries, The Langoliers?
Like vaguely, I remember it's a thing. It
was not good.
Yeah, I heard it's not good.
It's the story is about a bunch of people who are on an airplane, and basically everyone disappears while they're on this airplane, and you find out they're kind of like trapped in time. Okay, and they're in this airport by themselves. So these filmmakers have taken that and they photocopied every scene from this is all done with photocopies.
Yeah.
And so they use that medium doing things like at one point when Bronson Pinchot's Belky from Perfect Strangers, when his character is going crazy, like they tear the paper so like his eyes are flickering around, and they use the paper and rip it in different scenes. And it is hard to explain exactly what it is, but it makes that movie 1,000 times better because it's its own thing using this kind of experimental medium.
It's so, if anything, it's so interesting. You don't want to take your eyes away from the screen.
Yeah,
and
it's fascinating filmmaking.
And that was, I played that at Chattanooga Film Festival, I think in 2022. And it was one of those, like, it was one of the last ones I watched. So I was going to kind of skip it because I didn't like the Langoliers. And then I watched it and I was so fucking glad I watched it because it's
really good.
So if I remember, the Langoliers is long. So do they?
It is. It's one of those miniseries. The 90s Stephen King miniseries.
Yeah, this is an hour and 20 minutes, somewhere around there.
It's right at an hour and 2 minutes. I just pulled it up.
I'll watch that.
Available for free on Vimeo for this month. So definitely check that out.
After that, is it just gone? Are they taking it down completely?
I'm not sure what they're doing after that, but at least for a little while. I don't know if this could ever get like a real release because it is using another movie as its basis. I don't know how copyright works with that, but it is definitely worth checking out for free for this entire month. If you go to Vimeo and just type in Timekeepers of Eternity, you should be able to find it. If not, you can go to the horror sites, Bloody Disgusting, places like that. They'll have links.
Okay. Thank you, Jody. We got more.
I got just a little bit more, yeah.
Okay.
Hey, Jody.
Fortnite, something that 40-year-old men always talk about. But no, this is cool. Fortnite has added Michael Myers as a playable character that you can, it's a skin, it's how Fortnite works. You can buy it. I don't care that it's Michael Myers, but on Fortnite, they have all the Fortnite dances and emotes and things like that. The emote for Michael Myers is he pulls out a keyboard and does the little and then he pulls out a knife with his other hand, and the knife hits the keyboard going dum,
hits the bass
dum. That John Carpenter soundtrack. I don't want to spend any money in Fortnite. I have played Fortnite before, but I want to spend money just to do this and do it all the time. Like just sit there and watch this thing play out all day long because it's so much fun.
For a moment, I was hoping he'd pull out like an organ and start doing the Silver Shamrock theme.
Oh, this one's so good.
Well, Silver Shamrock is just London Bridge is falling down.
No,
that's really what it is.
I know.
It is.
There's a great so the wrestler Danhausen, who's actually known in a lot of horror circles, he's done Joe Bob. He's coming back after his injury, and the return video they played for him in AEW is Silver Shamrock.
Nice.
It's like very nice, very evil, and then it zooms in on him, and it was like Pazuzu from Exorcist. I thought it was really cool. I like the sport nods.
One last thing. if you are a fan of Terrifier 2, as I am, it is doing a one-day only theater screening on November 1st. So look that up and see if they're coming near you. But along with that, you also get the first teaser of Terrifier 3 as that's getting ready to come out. I don't know how soon, but you're getting a teaser if you watch Terrifier 2 in theaters on November 1st.
For the record, Damien Leone also said it's not going to be a 20-second teaser. It's a 2-minute teaser trailer.
Yeah, it's a real teaser.
Which, man, that might make me... I love Terrifier 2. I just don't know if I want to sit in this theater for 2 hours right now. When I can watch it on my couch with a beer.
3 hours?
2 hours. 2 hours.
Terrifier 2 is about 2 hours and 20 minutes. It's the longest slasher I've ever seen, but I'll go ahead and I think I've mentioned it before. I hated Terrifier 1. Like on my letterbox, it's got 1 star. I was not a fan. I liked the gore. I liked art, but the movie did nothing for me.
I told you after I saw this one that I think you'll like this one more.
Yeah, and I did. Like, this is a 4-star movie. I have a steelbook, Blu-ray of this one. Like, I really like Terrifier 2. It's got a lot of weird mythology. I know some people think it gets too deep in the weeds, but for me, that's what I wanted with this. I wanted more about art and what's happening here, and it makes me happy. I'm ready for more of it.
Again, I think the movie could have been shorter. Don't get me wrong.
It's too long.
But it was definitely setting up the world and universe. And just a shout out to our good friend Aussie Andy and his Ghastly Ghouls collectible line.
Oh, cool.
Really
cool nice. Yeah.
Art the clown figure.
Nice.
Ghastly Ghouls on eBay. Check them out. All kinds of cool stuff.
Really cool stuff.
This time I actually am done.
All right. It's for our dad advice, because it's the eve of Friday the 13th during October. I thought we'd go around real quick and tell everyone what our favorite Friday the 13th movie is.
So I've been watching through all these with my kids, which makes it, a whole new experience. I did this a couple years ago watching with my oldest daughter, but we watched like the edited versions from AMC. We've now moved on to the box set that I have. So boobs and blood have abounded in our house for the last few weeks.
Real quick, what a great box set. Still available right now on the Shocktober sale from Shout Factory. Phenomenal box set. It's not 4K, amazing, but the transfers are amazing and look
the first few movies are 4K. I think 1 through 4. Are you sure?
Not in that Shout Factory box set. Yeah.
Okay.
It's all Blu-ray.
But speaking of things bounding through your house, Jody, congrats on all your black belts.
Yes, yeah, all 4 of my oldest kids now have black belts. So, things happening this weekend, Friday 13th coming up tomorrow. But then on Saturday, my 2 daughters are heading to Canada to compete in the World Games. So,
good luck,
Canada.
Yeah, Canada. We're going Calgary this year. We've done Austria, we've done the UK, and this year it's Canada.
I hope they come back and just start calling everybody Hosiers. Look at this
Hosier. I prepared my middle daughter last night by watching My Bloody Valentine with her. So I was like, these accents are insane. I never noticed them when I watched this before, but they are crazy in that movie.
You just showed them Strange Brew as well. Jody, did you ever say your favorite Friday the 13th movie?
I haven't. No, I just talked about how much I love the series. Jason is, of the big 3, Jason, Freddy, Michael, Jason is my favorite. I love the Friday the 13th series. I like every movie in the series to one degree or another. My favorite, though, because it has, I think, the best final girl and the scariest Jason, is actually Friday the 13th Part 2. I love the cast. It's before he even gets the mask. But I love the cast. It's got some of the most likable counselors, and so their deaths are more impactful.
Yeah.
By the later movies, you don't care if they die or not, whatever, they all suck. But in part 2, I didn't want to see people die, but they do die, and they die spectacularly. And sometimes your wheelchair goes backwards down a flight of stairs while you have a machete in your face. So yeah, I'm a big fan of part 2. It's my favorite.
All right. Mondo, I could probably guess yours, at least your comfort favorite, but
guess mine.
It's from the X.
No, that's my second favorite.
I was saying it's the X is I'm guessing is your comfort favorite.
And it's Jason 10, by the way. As we discussed last week, Jason, X stands for 10 in Roman numerals.
I keep forgetting, Mondo.
Jason 10 is actually one of my. I love that movie. It's a very comfort film for me. I think it's fun. I don't think it's a good movie. I think it's a bunch of people though that knew that they weren't going to make Citizen Kane, that they were going to have a good ass time making a movie. And I imagine there's certain scenes in that movie. I imagine everybody on set just laughing and having a good time, and it makes that movie infectious.
Absolutely.
But my favorite Friday the 13th movie is Part 6, Jason Lives.
Mm-hmm.
I think that movie is just like hits all those marks. It's got some comedy. It's got some brutal fucking kills. Kane Hodder, the best Jason. Let's be honest. No knock on Ken Kriesinger. Kane Hodder, though, loved that role and is very expressive with his eyes and the way his body moves. And I think that's my favorite one. Is Friday the 13th Part 6. And holy shit, like the scene where they're in the little Beetle and they get stuck in the mud, and the lady goes like, "I've seen enough horror movies, a guy in a mask with a weapon is not a good thing," or something.
Right, and she has the Amex card.
It's a I think that movie hits like all those marks for me of being, it makes me laugh sometimes, but at the end of the day, it's still a good horror film, I think. And I equated a lot to Nightmare on Elm Street Part 3, where it kind of like, and I love Nightmare on Elm Street Part 2, and I love like you mentioned, I love Friday the 13th Part 2. I think it's better than the first. And I love the Jason look with the pillowcase over his head, the flour sack. It's just it's fucking terrifying, I think, because it's more DIY. But I think this was kind of the one that almost revitalized the franchise a little bit and like really pushed some new life into it. Because New Blood came after it. I wasn't the biggest fan of New Blood, but then you had Jason. I love Jason Goes. I love Jason Takes Manhattan. I think it's just fucking ridiculous.
It's fun.
I actually love Jason Goes to Hell. I might be in the minority on that one, but yeah.
Can I be controversial here?
I mean, you always
Go for
are,
it.
Jody. If
It's a
anybody's
podcast.
controversial, it's Jody.
You can always cut me out if I need to. Part 6.
Out.
Part 6 is
No.
my least. Part 6 is my least favorite.
Okay, guys, guess which one my favorite is.
It's Part
It doesn't,
6.
it doesn't even matter because I have been gutted to my core.
I know, Jody, you have to know.
Hold on, Jody. I want an explanation now. Why is it your least favorite?
Well,
which I
okay.
respect your opinion, so I get it.
Yeah, here's the thing. There's no such thing as a bad Friday the 13th movie, as far as I'm concerned.
Ooh.
Like,
Okay, I like that.
I love Part 5. Part 5 has some brutal kills, and it's a lot of fun. I don't care if it's Jason or not. It's entertaining.
Part 5 gets shit on, but like if it's fine. Part 5 is good.
Right.
I like Part
Hold
5.
on, I want to hear Jody's so I can hop in afterwards.
Well, I like Part 5 a lot. I like it more than Part 6. But so Part 6, my issue is
you like all of them more than Part 6.
Mondo, let him go. Let him go.
As a kid, I remember like all the way back to kindergarten. I remember hearing one of my friends talk about movies that he had watched. I don't know if he'd really watched them or not, but kids like to brag and stuff. And he told me about a character called Jason the Chainsaw Master. Okay. I'm thinking he got Texas Chainsaw Massacre and Jason mixed up and kind of combined them into two.
Wait, you call him the Chainsaw Master?
The Chainsaw Master. Which, great. Sounds like an NES game. Okay. But for me, Jason was always scary as a kid. That hockey mask, that hulking, like he was a real guy and he was scary to me. And the reason why Part 2 is my favorite is I feel like it's Jason at some of his scariest because it's not him in the mask. It's him like as an actual scary guy in the woods. And so the jokiness of Part 6 just does not work for me the same way that the more serious, quote, serious entries do.
I respect that.
Okay.
That's a good explanation.
I still had, I watched Part 6 a couple nights ago. Still had a great time with it. Lots of fun. There's a lot of fun scenes, a lot of fun kills. Like the worst Friday the 13th is like 3.5 out of 5 stars for me. So like I'm not talking worst. There's a lot of 5s in there for me.
All right.
So I don't hate it at all.
No, dude,
it's a very good movie. I have fun with it. If someone says, let's watch Jason Lives, I'm going to watch Jason Lives. I'm going to have a good time.
I'm never going to knock a 3.5 out of 5. That's a good score.
Right. He does have a utility belt in Part 6, and that's weird. He has gloves.
Okay.
He murks up those paintballers. That's perfect.
Yeah.
I know. Yeah.
So for me, the Friday the 13th movies is like 90% non sequitur kill sequences. And this one has some of my favorite. It's got, like you said, the paintball scene is just so random, so non.
Oh, you're with me on this one? You're with me on this one, Jason?
6 is my favorite.
All right, cool.
It had me when it does the James Bond intro.
Yes.
Like it's so ridiculous and silly, but I think by the time you get to the 6th part in this movie series, like you can't go. I love it that just leans into the meta. It's like a Scream movie, like 10 years earlier, like 10 years before that, and it's just there's just so many ridiculous, funny things happening. I just hold on one second.
Wait, what just happened? What is going on? I see Jason's mouth.
Sorry,
moving,
my kids are all. It's a thing.
Sorry, my kids exist. So I apologize.
I understand.
Okay, you're gonna edit this out. I put a marker in.
I did too.
Me too.
As I was saying,
we all click that button.
It's all just silliness, and that's what I like about it, because I don't know. I feel like pretty much all those movies are the same thing over and over and over again. I know that's kind of the formula, but I know it's too the same for me. I can't. I've seen them all plenty of times, but I can't discern a lot of them from each other.
But saying that, there's nothing wrong with that, because
nothing wrong with that.
ACDC's written the exact same album like 18 times.
Right.
But you know what you're going to get when you pick up an ACDC record. And even like Jody said, 6 isn't his favorite, but he still got some stuff that he liked. He knew he was going to get Jason. He knew he was going to get some kills. And if I have that, I'm usually going to be happy.
No, and that's what I'm saying. This has that. This has the Friday the 13th formula, but with a whole extra layer of zaniness on top of it. That just tickles me. That I love. And also, it has one thing that most of the other one, I don't know if any of the other ones have, it actually has kids at the camp. And I
do like that.
Drives me nuts whenever you have a summer camp horror movie, but there's no kids at the camp. To me,
there have been kids in the past, but they weren't really focused on. And I think the idea was always, with the mythos or the lore, is that Jason died as a kid. Why would he want to kill kids? Kids aren't.
No, I don't want to see kids die. But I at least want to see them like in peril, or at least there. Because to me, the reason.
I don't want them traumatized.
I definitely want them to have therapy.
But what I'm saying is, as someone who's worked at summer camps and stuff, to me, that is summer camp, is having the chaos of the kid. That's why Sleepaway Camp I like much more than any of the Friday 13th movies, because it's about the kids being little shits to each other. And again, there's so many great parts where like the groundskeeper is breaking the fourth wall and saying, "I think I'm a poopy head." And all the kids yell, "Yes!" Like, it's so great. And then you still get a great final girl sequence. The whole ending sequence is really, really good. You got Tommy Jarvis, with that amazing jacket. You get the guy with the laser gun, the laser sight, the ya bang line. It's just, there's so much good, and it's a perfect resurrection of Jason. It's very Frankenstein. It's wonderful.
There is a good final girl in part 6. I will say that. I like her.
She's spunky. Yeah.
The final girl in part 2, Annie is my favorite, just because the whole like psychological thing she does with Jason, with putting his mother's sweater on and treating him like a kid. In this series, I like it when it's more serious than playful. I like lots of playful slashers, but in this series, I like it, when they try to be scary.
Yeah, at this point, I want the playful. I want.
Sure, there's nothing wrong with that. I love Sleepaway Camp 2 more than 1. So,
I think it's one of those things where it's like Nightmare on Elm Street, got famous for its campiness towards the end. But I do think, and this to Jody's point, I do think that campiness does work better with a character who even in the first movie, his wisecracks are more sinister, but he's still wisecracking, whereas Jason is a silent killing machine. So I definitely 100% get that.
I just like scary Jason better than jokey Jason, and that's totally fine.
He's not the one making the jokes. It's the movie that's making jokes at his expense, that's why I like.
And I think it's maybe because it kind of feels like the series is making fun of itself. And it's somebody who loves the series, it's hard for me to see it make fun of itself.
No, I get it. It feels like it's part of a joke that you're in on. And but when you want that serious, I get it. That's a hard departure from that serious kind of horror film. That's what you want.
I'll watch 2 as well as 6 tomorrow. Just to see.
Go for it. Yeah. I mean, we're up to Jason Takes Manhattan for the next one, or as I call it, Jason Takes a Long Boat Ride. Yeah. So
All right. That movie
is my favorite scenes though. When he walks by and he knocks off the guy's boombox, and they go, "Hey," he turns around and he just raises his mask, and they're like, "No, it's okay." okay.
It's cool.
It's cool. It's cool.
I mean, I was counting up the other day. I have, I think, 12 Jason figures in my office. I love this series. It's my favorite.
I have Freddy versus
All right.
Jason. I have Jason Lives.
I gotta wrap this up.
And the New Blood.
All right. Well, that wraps up another episode. Next week, we'll be covering Trick or Treats for our Halloween episode. We appreciate everyone for listening. We would really appreciate if you give us a rating or review on iTunes, a rating on Spotify, and check out our YouTube for videos of these podcasts, and give us a like and subscribe. With that, we thank you for listening to Dads from the Crypt.
Good night. Or good day.
Follow Dads from the Crypt on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram, or I will follow you to the grave. No, seriously, you really should watch. But be careful what you ask for. You may get it.